Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Inside the Operating Room. Um, it is a pleasure for me to welcome you to the first session of the year. My name is David Cava. I'm the new director of Inside the Operating Room. I'm a surgical oncologist based in California. And today we have the pleasure of having a fantastic world-renowned speaker. And I want to thank him for joining us. I have a couple of announcements that I want to share with you, um, if you allow me. I will be introducing Dr. Coimbra, but it is my pleasure to have him with us tonight. And so I'd like to thank all the staff and team that has worked in this new endeavor for this year. I'll be moderating along with Dr. Andrea Gocci, who I'll introduce later. And then I will like to thank our IT and logistics team, Christian Puerta, Aldo Trevino, Stalin Canizares, Andrea Silva Hernandez. Thank you for your hard work in making this possible. Society is very grateful for all the efforts, and our founders, as you may know them, have been very actively involved in all academic endeavors in the country and trying to promote our society, which is growing very strong. And we have our advisory board for the past 3 years, which will review new announcements this year as well. And we have committees for different subspecialties that we encourage you to join. And also we have a very interesting programming with Inside the Operating Room, the Cafecito con LSS, the Soon Seats, and Pass the Baton. So those are really exciting programs that I really, really would like to share with you, and hopefully you can join. There are multiple benefits of being a member of the Latino Surgical Society. I've had the pleasure of be a mentor and have had a bunch of sponsors, and we participate in a lot of faculty development. This is a strong community, and we continue to grow and have a voice within the different other societies. Um, we have other things that have allow us to continue to grow. We are part of this other academic duties. If you're more interested, please feel free to contact us, and we're happy to share more information. We have a bunch of institutional members who support us, and we're thankful for that. These are the different members. Status depending on their engagement and support, but we are very grateful regardless of their status for their support. And I'd like to thank them again for everything they do to continue to support us. The upcoming events will have a presence in the East Conference, the Academic Surgical Congress, and the LMSA regional conferences. So also we will be receiving some notices. We really encourage you to participate, join the society, and continue to integrate us into a larger society. So without further ado, I'm really excited to be presenting Dr. Coimbra. I think when one has someone of his caliber agreeing to share his knowledge and everything he's done with us, it's always a great opportunity for us to continue to learn. And he paved the way for many of us who now are surgeons in this country. I think I would spend half of the session or more trying to name off his accolades and all his titles, but I think Dr. Coimbra, for once, has changed how the world of trauma is seen. He's been not only a part of multiple publications, research as a leader, surgeon, and scientist, but he's also changed the way we do quality surgery and trauma, how we measure, and creation of different programs that now are gold standards, and they are the banners of the American College of Surgeons, and also being editor-in-chief of the Journal of Trauma and Acute Care Surgery. He's someone that knows how things are done in the research world, but also how that translates to different populations. And he's always has a vision to incorporate the most vulnerable people into this world. And if you want to just Google Dr. Coimbra, you'll find pages and pages of his accomplishments. But it is my pleasure to have him here. Thank you, Dr. Coimbra. I also have the pleasure of having as a mentor, colleague, friend, and he's someone who's continues to teach the new generation of attendings and residents in the trauma world and the general surgery world. So thank you so much. And so one of the things that the their society does is trying to cultivate the nature of an advancement of Latino surgeons. And I think this speaks very, very highly of what Dr. Coimbra has done. And we'd like to, without further ado, we'd like to continue and like to quickly introduce Dr. Andrea Gauci, who was born and raised in LA to Salvadoran immigrants. She was passionate about social justice and medicine, attended UCR, where I had the pleasure of knowing her as a student. And that's where her passion for surgery grew. And so she's in a year of research looking for trauma outcomes and determinants of health. So from her standpoint, it will be great to hear what she has to ask Dr. Coimbra. So we can take it from here. And Andrea, please, let's begin this amazing interview, and we can go from there.
Thank you, Dr. Kaba, and thank you again, Dr. Coimbra, for being here. We are all very excited to get to know you and ask more questions into your career in the hopes that you can inspire the next generation of upcoming surgeons and the young surgeons who are on this call, including myself. So I'd like to start with the first question. And this is in particular to your background. Where do you come from? Why medicine? Why surgery? And why did you choose trauma surgery as your specialty?
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Kaba and Dr. Gochi, for having me speak to the Latino Surgical Society, to this community that's very important. It is a great pleasure for me to share a few moments with you. So I am a Brazilian by birth and an American by choice. I immigrated to this country in 1994 when I took a couple years to do a sabbatical and a research fellowship after I obtained my PhD degree. And at the beginning of my career as an attending in Brazil. And I came to the University of California, San Diego, to work with one of the giants at the time of trauma surgery, Dr. David Hoyt, who was just recently the executive director of the American College of Surgeons. Dr. Hoyt is a world-renowned trauma surgeon, and we met in a meeting in Guadalajara, Mexico, actually. This was that day changed my life, and this is one of those things that happen out of nowhere. I'm presenting a paper from my hospital in Brazil at the Pan American Trauma Society, which I was part since the beginning in Guadalajara, and the person discussing my paper was Dr. Hoyt. I had never talked to him. I never seen him before. I didn't know who he was, but he was very kind to me during the discussion. And after the session, he developed an interest in me, and he said, "Do you want to go to the bar and have a beer?" And I said, "Absolutely." And after many beers, we get to know each other. And it so happened that I was doing research in my basic science laboratory in my medical school in Sao Paulo, Brazil, that was very similar to the research that he was doing at the University of California, San Diego, in shock and inflammation and sepsis. And that sparkled, this interest of in each other. And that's how I end up in San Diego after I received a scholarship from the Brazilian government, allowing me to do this sabbatical. And I've been here since. So that's an incredible moment in my career that really changed my life. And I returned to Brazil for a brief period of time, and then I came back to the UC system as an associate professor and to do clinical work and to do research. And worked at the University of California for 24 years and retired in the UC system, and came to Riverside County 7 years ago to help a group of friends who are leading the hospital to develop a robust trauma program, surgical ICU, an acute care surgery model, and a research center, which was non-existent at the time that I got there. So it's been fun. It's the last. This is the tail end of my career, but it's been fun to move from universities such as the UC system and go to Riverside County, which is a very different county than San Diego. That population has completely different needs, and to really build a surgical hospital. That was my my duty when I was recruited there, being the chief of surgery, the surgeon in chief of the hospital. I had to revamp all the surgical services, including creating a trauma center. And it's been absolutely fun and a pleasure to meet a lot of new faculty and do those kinds of things at the end of a career that was full of surgery and basic science and clinical research.
Dr. Coimbra, what do you think about your upbringing, meant to you as coming to a new country, and how did that impact, your resilience and persistence, and the achievements you've been able to accomplish here? When you were a kid, do you have those dreams of maybe immigrating, or when you were in med school, or you always thought, I'm going to make my name in Brazil and then go from there?
Yeah, no, this was pure serendipity for me. I never planned to come to the United States and work here. Um, I had a pretty good job. I graduated from an excellent medical school. I was running the trauma service in my early years as a junior faculty in my medical school. So this happened just because it had to happen. But once it happens, you need to equip yourself with a lot of energy, a lot of resilience, a lot of hard work, and persistence. It's not easy. Different culture, different language, different healthcare system. Um, so you need to adapt, and you need to adapt quickly. And but I can tell you that I was embraced by the team at UC San Diego, by the nurses, by my colleagues in the division of trauma, by my boss certainly, and I never had a hard time integrating and working there at the beginning, but I knew that I was being observed, and so you put your head down, you get up every morning, go to work, do the best you can, and do the right thing, and that's how success comes.
Thank you, Dr.
Great.
Coimbra. So you kind of alluded to this in your previous answer, that you were embraced and you had a lot of support in your journey. Can you speak about the role of mentorship and sponsorship during your career, especially during your transition?
Absolutely. Yeah. So in my mind, there is nothing more important in one's career than having the right mentors. And I say mentors because it doesn't need to be necessarily one mentor. You can have more than one mentor, several mentors in different areas of your areas of interest for you. So I had a phenomenal mentor in Brazil that carried me through medical school, residency, specialty training, research, and made me an attending. And to this day, that individual is still my mentor. And then when I met Dr. Hoyt, certainly he was my second mentor and became my most important mentor when I immigrated to the United States. So, to the young folks listening to this today, I think that step one in everyone's career, if you want to have a successful career, you need to have mentors. You need to have somebody to talk to on a regular basis, to bounce ideas off, to brainstorm, to ask for guidance, to listen to when things don't go the way you expected them to go. When you are planning your steps, your future steps in your career, it is important to have someone or several people that will help you shape up your ideas, your strategies, your tactics to achieve the successes that you want in your career. So, a mentor is fundamental in everything you do, professionally speaking. And once you get to that point that you too can be a mentor to others, that should be your first priority. I always took this very seriously because I received so much from my mentors that very early on I decided that I should pay back by being a good mentor to medical students and then to residents and to my fellows and to the faculty that I recruited over 20 some years being the chief of trauma in San Diego and actually now in Riverside because I recruited many of the faculty that are there. So and having a an open door policy where people can come in, knock at my door, and say, "I need to talk to you," and you make the time is really important. That's one of the most critical aspects of someone's career.
And I can attest to that, Dr. Coimbra. I think that policy that you have has opened the door for a lot of us, and set us straight into what the pathways should be. I have a follow-up question, and in this new era of social media technology, I believe mentorship also has evolved dramatically. In the past, meetings in societies and in-person meetings were more common and often avenue for people to reach out to their future mentors. How do you see are the biggest obstacles with this, younger generation that probably the COVID impact also made it a little different? What are your recommendations for this younger generation where sometimes this in-person interaction doesn't happen as often as it happened probably to you or maybe me or other attendings?
Yeah. So I think that I am a very traditional person. I'm an old guy, and I like face-to-face interactions. I like to look at people's eyes and look at their reactions and embrace them and try to take them through. But the new generation doesn't communicate that way. The new generation doesn't learn that way, right? My son is a medical student, second year medical student, and he's going to start his clinical rotations in the summer. And I said to him, "Hey, do you need me to buy you some textbooks?" And he said, "Buy what?" Well, I'm used to read textbooks. That's how I learned in medical school, right? And today they learn with flashcards and videos on their computer, and they have digital libraries and all that. Yeah, I get all that. The communication is different. Now, despite the fact that you don't have the personal one-on-one face-to-face interaction, I think that technology has created tremendous opportunities regarding mentorship, because now your mentor doesn't need to be sitting next to you or on the floor above or on the floor below. Your mentor can be anywhere in the world, and you still can have that interaction, just the way we are doing today. Zoom just shortened the distance tremendously, and we can have mentorship sessions by looking at each other through the computer screen instead of sitting next to each other. So I think that the technology has created opportunities for young folks to find mentors elsewhere at a distance and interact with them. And the professional organizations, as you mentioned, is doing this very, very efficiently. I'm very close to the American Association for the Surgery of Trauma. I'm past president of that organization. And we have a very vibrant group of associated members that are fellows, residents, and very junior faculty that connect with us via Zoom quite often. And we have the same conversations that we are having here, we have all the time. And so I think that technology, we need to, even having a lot of gray hair, we need to embrace technology and understand how the new generation communicates and help them see the value of these interactions, even if it's through the computer screen.
Thank you. Andrea, I think you had an important question about things that we discussed about the American College.
Yes, definitely. So shifting gears just a little bit, can you speak a little bit about your journey in the American College of Surgeons, as well as the creation of multiple trauma, EGS, or acute care surgery programs? And a follow-up to that question, especially for those like me who are in their research years, how do you go about getting involved with these societies, these organizations, and how do you improve that sort of networking aspect?
Yeah. So specifically about the American College of Surgeons. So the ACS is a fantastic organization that's there. This is the house of surgery. It's there for all of us, including residents and students and fellows and junior faculty. I started at the American College of Surgeons almost 30 years ago as an international fellow. Then I transitioned to an American fellowship when I came here in the early 90s. And the best way to get involved, in my opinion, is to participate of your local chapter, because the country is divided in many, many different chapters. And so where I am now in Riverside County is part of the Southern California chapter of the American College of Surgeons. It's a vibrant chapter, has several programs, has an annual meeting that's a 3-day meeting that very, very vibrant, very robust. There are several committees. So you start at the local level, then you grow up to the regional level, to the state level, and then eventually you go to the national level, to committees at the national level in the college. And even you may have positions as an officer or a chair of a national committee. So I started small in the San Diego chapter, being the vice chair of the trauma committee. Then I became the chair. Then from there, I was nominated to the National Committee on Trauma of the American College of Surgeons. I raised through the ranks of the COT and became the vice chair nationally and the chair of all the international regions. And so that's my trajectory in the Committee on Trauma, which spans a period of 18 to 20 years. When I left the Committee on Trauma, because there is a point in time that you gotta go and somebody younger comes in, so my terms were all completed. I felt at that moment as a trauma surgeon that emergency general surgery was not very well represented in the college from a quality improvement program point of view. So we have very robust cancer programs, we've had very robust trauma programs, but we didn't have a robust way to assess how well we do emergency general surgery in the country. So I finished my term at the COT, was president of the WASC at that time. This is the year 2017. I made part of my presidency in the AAST a, a plan to seek emergency general surgery development in both the AAST and the American College of Surgeons. Went across the street in Chicago, went to Dr. Hoyt's office, again, my mentor, who was the executive director, and I said, you have programs in every specialty, you don't have an EGS. I'm willing to do it with you. Would you take me? And he said, absolutely. So again, the importance of the mentorship, the relationships that you create. And I developed with a number of people. Obviously, you don't do these things alone, but we had a committee of about 20, 25 people. We developed a program in emergency general surgery that is as important as the trauma program or the cancer program. So we go now and verify centers that are doing EGS to make sure that they are practicing according to the standard of care, that they have quality, that they have a robust performance improvement process, that their outcomes are excellent. And then you verify those centers and they become verified centers by the American College of Surgeons. And this is happening in the last 7 or 8 years. It took us several years to get this off the ground. And in the last 3 years, we start verifying centers. I'm very excited about this new program. And we have verified 13 hospitals so far. We are at the beginning of this journey, but certainly this will grow to the same stature that the Committee on Cancer and the Committee on Trauma has, because every hospital does emergency general surgery.
Thank you, Dr. Coimbra. And going back to that, so why? I have two questions about it because I like to know why trauma surgery, and how did you use that tool now to become an advocate for disadvantaged communities, and how surgeons are now champions for underserved populations, which your research is also focused on. So those are two important questions, and one of them comes from one of our panelists, one of our guests here in the talk.
Yeah, so I developed a passion for emergency surgery in general when I was in medical school, again, influenced by mentors that I had during medical school that took me under their wings. And I was, as a medical student, second, third year medical student, I was sleeping in some couch in the corner of the emergency department, trying to see what the next disaster was going to be coming in. And I was just exposed to those things. And so I developed a passion for it. But more importantly, the choice of your specialty has to do a lot with your personality, I think. At least it was like that for me. I am a very mentally agitated individual. My mind is all over the place. I'm always thinking, I'm always trying to create. And I could not see myself sitting in clinic 3 times a week, seeing 20 patients at a time to schedule 5 hernias and 6 gallbladders. I just, that's not me. I can't do that. So I did my training in general surgery, and most of you don't know, but I did my training in vascular surgery too. And the training in vascular surgery was to become a better trauma surgeon, because I knew that people died of bleeding. And if I were a good vascular surgeon, I would be equipped to stop bleeding and repair bleeding vessels. And so I did all that to be a better trauma surgeon. And why trauma? Because I love the unknown. The thing that gets me going is being on call and not knowing what's going to come through the door. The pager goes off. I go to the trauma bay. I don't know what's coming, and I deal with it. That makes my day. And so that's how I decided that my life would be dedicated to a career in trauma and acute care surgery. Now, you ask about underserved communities and why we do this work. I think everything is related. Trauma is one is probably the only specialty that in this country is regulated to the point that by legislation you go to any hospital and you receive care, whether you can pay for, whether you have insurance or not. So I think that connection between trauma and disadvantaged populations exists by nature of what we do. I also developed, based on my roots being Latino from Brazil, I always had a passion for global health. And for many, many years, I worked quite a lot actually in global health with the World Health Organization. Work in South America, work in Southeast Asia, worked in sub-Saharan Africa, in Ghana. We built a trauma center in a university there. So I was doing all these things at the same time that I was working in San Diego. So the beauty of being a university, a large university that allows you to do those kinds of things on the side is really important and was really important for my career. But I think that trauma affects everyone from 0 to whatever age, and you never know what's going to happen. Most people don't believe this is a disease. I strongly believe it's a disease, and I've made it part of my career to go out there and educate people about the importance of trauma prevention, injury prevention, and the importance of being trained to respond to those patients because they can come in at any time of day and night in any environment. And I think that's how we make progress. And that's how the interaction between my idea of being a trauma surgeon and the communities that we served came about.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Coimbra. That's very inspirational. I appreciate your perspective and hearing about your path to trauma and how you feel about it. Thank you. I wanted to ask, in terms of your career, what has been the greatest obstacle that you have faced? And on the other side, what has been the most satisfying?
Probably it's the same thing for both, because I'm one of those people that I don't get taken down very easily, and so obstacles and difficulties don't take me down very easily, because if you focus on the mission and if you focus on your goal, you will win the battle against any obstacle. And once you do, you have this incredible sense of accomplishment and pleasure. So yes, there were difficulties along the way. There is no question about it. Obviously, as an academic surgeon, most of the difficulties were related to either promotions or, as a researcher, funding, right? Grants. When you need to write 10 or 15 NIH grants to get one, and you're expecting that one, the last one that you wrote, is going to be funded, and it's not, it's depressing, because it's years of work, it's years of dedication, years of studying and reading and researching and doing experiments and writing papers to then be denied. And so obviously I had those moments in my career, but they were not significant enough to make me quit. I never quit. And I would recommend that all of you never quit. Follow your dream. Now, I'm going to say one thing about that. In addition to finding a good mentor, which, having a mentor in those moments that you're down is as important as talking to your mentor when you are accomplishing everything you want. actually more important when you're down, because you can get some guidance, you can get some emotional support that you wouldn't otherwise. But in addition to having a mentor, I think you need to be very strategic in developing a plan. I tell my junior faculty, think about your career in 5-year blocks. I always did that. I knew where I was, and I knew where I would like to be 5 years later. Around year 3.5, I start thinking about the second block, because there is a little overlap there. But then my goal was being achieved here, and I had to develop another goal 5 years later. Never take the eye out of your goal. Every single day, keep an eye on your goal. Even if you go a little bit like this, instead of a straight line, keep an eye on your goal. That will give you the motivation to get there regardless of any impediment, any obstacle that you find in life.
And following on that question, Dr. Coimbra, I believe that all that comes with a lot of sacrifices. And, as everything has changed in the past probably 10, 15 years in training, and I'm sure you've trained different generations of surgeons, researchers. Um, how do you deal with this work-life balance, which the word means something very different now to what it meant for you when you were a resident or a junior attending to a mid-career attending?
Yeah. So that's a great question. It's probably one of the most important and one of the hardest to answer. I could just say, "How did you deal with that?" I could just say, "I didn't," because really I didn't. But I'm seeing this now with my son. In this new generation, life balance is extremely important. Um, I grew up in a generation that if you were not on call every night, you missed half of the great cases because you were sleeping at home. You life is made of choices, and although we didn't have an option to make a different choice at the time, maybe some of us would like to make a choice and sleep more at home and not miss so many baseball games and birthday parties and Christmas with the family. Uh, you know, we were told that there was a mission, there was a goal, and we need to keep our eye on the goal and keep doing those things. My successes are really my family's successes, because if I didn't have the family that I have, I probably wouldn't be where I am. They understood what I was doing, and they understood that the games that I missed, the birthday parties, the reading nights at school, all the stuff that a dad does, that sometimes I missed. I didn't miss every time, but I missed some. But they understood it. They understood that I was doing something that was meaningful to people, meaningful to the public, meaningful to my hospital, meaningful to myself. So they were very supportive and continue to be very supportive with all my traveling and everything else. So reflecting back and comparing that time with the current, the current situation and what the current generation is looking for, I think the current generation is correct. We should be balanced in our lives. We should sleep better. We should recover from a busy night on call. We should not miss important events in our life, because, if you think about it, we could divide our life in three pieces: our profession, our family, and the time we sleep. Right? So 2/3 is not related to your profession. So you need to find that balance. So again, mentorship, clear objectives, be honest and be clear about the things that you want, that you need, that you like, and the things that you dislike. Have a great plan. Identify how you're going to go from point A to point B in a way that you can do everything that you want to do, and yet you're going to get to point B. Nothing will be an impediment or will make it impossible for you to get there if you plan well. So if you are strategic, if you have good tactics, and you can clearly see in your mind what is it that you need to do to go from point A to point B, you don't need to avoid family time or sleeping less or not going to the conferences that you like to go just because of your work. I think it's important. Now, the other thing is when you're choosing your job, make sure that you look at the culture of the place and the people that you're going to be working with, because you need your partners. One day they want to do the things that you are doing with your family, and you need to be there for them. When you're doing it with your family, they should be there for you. And creating an environment with your partners and including your boss, that it's a team that shines together, a team that grows together, a team that works collaboratively together and supports each other, makes the job part of your life a lot easier. So you can have a personal life, you can have your personal time, you can have your family time, because when you're there, you're working hard. But when you're not, the world doesn't fall apart because you're not the only one. Your team is there and your partners are there doing the same thing. So it's important to feel supported at home from your mentor and from your partners. I think this is critically important. And I always felt that way with my team.
Thank you for sharing, Dr. Coimbra. I wanted to ask a follow-up question to that. You were talking about the three different parts in your life. How did you decide to become an academic surgeon and pursue research? And what advice would you have for young surgeons who are in the process of establishing themselves within the research world? And how do they form or establish an effective research program?
Yeah. So this is a pretty loaded question.
Or
I think I decided to be an academic surgeon with a very strong component of research for two reasons. One, I was exposed very early on. I had mentors that were fantastic surgical scientists in Brazil and here in the United States. And the second, in addition to the exposure, it's something about me. As I told you, I'm mentally agitated. I'm curious. My curiosity, I like to find things, to discover things. I like to work on answers to clinical problems, and but in an organized way. And research allows that, right? Allows you to think about a question that you may have at the bedside, go back to your basic science laboratory or to your clinical research center and get a piece of paper and start to write down your ideas. How can you answer that question? Through research. And I've always done that. And there is a third factor. One of my mentors always said to me, you cannot know what you do not know. What he meant is, if you don't read all the time, if you don't study all the time, you think that all your ideas are the best ideas in the world. The problem is that research is not something that you're sleeping in your bed and 3 o'clock in the morning, your eyes go like this, open, and you say, gee, I had this idea. Let me write down this research idea. This is great. I'm going to get funded tomorrow. This is not how research is. That idea, because you don't read, you don't know, you're not up to date, has been done a million times. And that you get frustrated. So ideas come from knowledge. It's not lack of knowledge that should give us ideas. It's knowledge that should give us ideas. So this mentor of mine at the beginning of my career, he said to me, you go to the library. At that time we used to go to the library. Now we don't go to the library anymore, right? Said you go to the library and you make a copy, a Xerox of the table of contents of the 6 most important surgical journals in the world every month. And then you read the table of contents of those journals and you mark the ones that catch your eyes. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, I saw a case similar to this. Oh, I like this topic. Those kinds of things. You are going to end up probably with 30 papers. He said, all you need to do is to read one a day. Is it too much to ask? One a day. He said, if you do that consistently through your residency, through your fellowship, and through your career as an attending, you're going to be up to date in your specialty. You're going to know exactly what the status of the research is in your specialty. You are going to know what's known and what's not known. Then, with that knowledge, you can ask the right questions for research. So I think that for someone like yourself and others in the audience today that are thinking about developing a research career and becoming an academic surgeon, that is the key thing to do. You will develop a passion for an area of interest. Mine in basic science was shock and immunology of shock and sepsis, inflammation. Clinically, I like vascular trauma because I was trained as a vascular surgeon and I became known for my publications in vascular trauma. So I keep researching it. I keep looking at this. But I can nowadays, because I have a very large research center, we do research on anything. But I tell people, you come to me with a proposal, you need to tell me which question you're trying to answer. And the first thing you need to do is a very good literature review, because you need to know what you're going to be researching on. Your idea may have been done a million times, so it's not worth pursuing. And then you get discouraged and you quit research. No, you need to know to then ask the right questions.
That is great advice. Thank you. It was, like I said, a loaded question. There was a million topics that we could discuss from uh, from here. I'm going to shift a little for some questions for the um, audience, and one of them was related to mentorship interactions. And I think some of the newer generations, they feel a little afraid to reaching out to mentors like yourself, for example, through social media and other ways. And sometimes they do, and they do not feel that their questions are answered because it's a different way of communicating. What are your thoughts about it? I know you're a pro this using new technology, but sometimes it's the media that gets you into the right situation, right?
Everyone is busy, right? So the fear is that you reach out to somebody and the person is going to say, I cannot, I have too many mentees, I cannot take you on, I don't have time. That's not what's supposed to happen, right? If somebody is coming to you and looking for advice and looking for mentorship, if you're a real mentor, you should not turn anyone down. You may not be able to do that at that very same moment, but you can say, hey, I cannot do this week, but I can do this next week. Why don't we set up some time for next week? You are going to have more time to prepare, and I will have adequate time to spend with you. So I think that people should not be afraid of hearing no, because if you hear no, you should think that you're lucky because you're approaching the wrong person. The right person, the good mentor, is the one that says yes. I will meet with you. We are going to find time to meet, and I will continue to meet with you on a regular basis until you decide that you no longer need my advice. or my mentorship. That's how it should happen. So don't be aggressive. Don't if again, you have a goal, look at your goal every day. And if one of the steps to reach your goal is to find a good mentor for you, fight for it. Be aggressive. Don't feel afraid of receiving no as an answer. No, do not accept no as an answer. Okay. You can't, fine, thank you. You're lucky. Find a better one. But keep looking. This is really important. Persistence, tenacity, resilience is really important. Don't let those small hiccups take you down.
Thank you, Dr. Coimbra. We have a question for Dr. Gabriela Santos. She's a PGY3 in her research at the Sun Medical Center, University of Long Island, New York, and wants to be an academic trauma surgeon. And the question is, how do you divide your clinical and academic duties on, daily basis, weekly basis as an academic surgeon? How did you, juggle with those two hats?
Yeah, so this is a very important question. I would say, and this is what I say to my fellows when they're looking for jobs, etc. Said, okay, if you are interested in doing research, don't accept a job that's they say, oh, we're going to give you 20% protected time for research. Said, oh, great. You go home thinking, oh, they are so generous, 20% of my time for research. But then they say the 20% protected time is going to be Monday morning and Friday afternoon. Honestly, I don't remember what I ate for breakfast this morning. How can I remember Friday afternoon what I start writing on Monday morning or researching or the experiments that I did or whatever I'm doing my project? Research has to be done in blocks, in my opinion. I would not take a job where people offers me 3 hours here, 2 hours there, half a day there. I need blocks. When I'm doing research, I'm doing only research. If I'm clinical, I'm only clinical. It's hard to do research when you're clinical. The problem is that young folks, they get so excited about the clinical piece and they get so busy and they accept so much workload that then the first thing that they drop is the research because they were not offered research time. They think they did, but they were not offered research time. A few hours here and there is not research time. So if I'm starting my career, if I were starting my career today, negotiating my job, if I go interview somewhere and they say we want to offer you the job and you're going to have protected time, I would not sign a contract that doesn't give me a block of time. I don't care how much work I need to do clinically. Even if they say, okay, you work 5 weeks clinically and you work 1 week in research, that's less than 20% protected time, which I don't think it's ideal. But I would take that instead of taking 3 hours a couple of days a week every week, because I can't be productive that way. So that's one thing that I make sure I tell all my fellows and residents that ask the same question. And the other thing, since we are talking about jobs and careers, the other thing is when you go look for a job, be smart, because there will be two people, you and another candidate. Both are interviewing with me. Both say to me the same thing. I'm a good surgeon. I train in a good program. I can crack the chest. I can open the belly very quickly, and I can take the spleen out in 45 minutes. Both say the same thing. How do I choose? So this is a trick. Don't tell anyone I told you this. But there has to be alignment between what I am looking for as the division chief or the chair and what your skill set is. So if I'm looking for a basic scientist, a surgeon scientist for my basic science lab and to do surgery, trauma surgery, and you are not a basic scientist, don't come interview in my place because you know you're not going to be chosen. If I'm looking for a clinical researcher and you are the best basic scientist that there is out there at your level, you are not going to get the job, because that's not what I need. That's how I recruit. Most people don't do it that way. But you know what? Here's the thing. When you are looking for a job, you should not accept that your body is going to plug a hole in some call schedule, because that's a job, that's not a profession. So you got to go look for a job in a place that is conducive for you to achieve success using your skill sets that you learned. So if you are a great clinical researcher, go interviewing jobs that have strong clinical research programs. Don't go to a place where all they do is basic science or injury prevention work, if that's not what you do. So be smart, research the places, try to get a sense of what the culture is, team approach, how benign or malignant the place is, but also understand what they are looking for, right? You don't go to the supermarket to buy, beef and end up buying cheese just because you didn't find the meat that you want, right? That's the same as looking for a job. So I think those two pieces of advice are really, really important. How you set up your research career, protected time in blocks, making sure that the environment is conducive for you to have that protected time, that you're not going to be pulled out of that protected time all the time, and deviate you from your research, from your focus during that week. And then make sure that you're in a place that you can use the skill sets that you bring to the place. And that's what your fellowship's for.
Thank you. We have time for one last question, Dr. Gauci, if you can ask him. It's from the audience. Sorry that we couldn't get to all of you, but we have limited time. There you go.
Yes, thank you. One of the questions from our audience tonight, are there particular challenges or rewards that you think Latino surgeons experience that might differ from others in the field?
I don't think so. I think if you have adequate personal skills, if you have a good life plan, a good professional plan, if you understand the steps that are necessary for you to go from point A to point B, if you are focused, if you are resilient, and if you are dedicated, and more important, as a physician, if you put your patient first in every decision you make, you get up every day and you have to feel happy that you are part of this incredible profession of ours. And you go to work and you put your head down. Nothing will take you down. You get your job done. You help people. You will be recognized. In academic medicine, you will be recognized for your abilities to mentor people, to accommodate, to participate, to be a team player. And you're going to be recognized as a leader. Remember, leadership is important, but you don't need to wait until you reach to the top to lead. Anyone can lead from anywhere, including from the bottom or from the middle. Actually, that's great leadership. Most of the time, the great ideas don't come from the top person, come from the middle people that are fighting and thinking about these things all the time. So I don't think that being a Latino is either an advantage or a disadvantage to anyone professionally. I think it's you that define what you're going to be and how you're going to be perceived, respected, and awarded.
Thank you, Dr. Coimbra. I think we had a wonderful time listening to your pearls of wisdom. And I like to thank all of our participants who tuned in, all our sponsors. And one of the things that the society is trying to bring like-minded surgeons, and having a person with such relevance and wisdom with us. It was really a pleasure, Dr. Coimbra. Thanks for taking time from your busy life to share your life experience and this pearls of wisdom. I speak for all the society and all the participants in this panel. And for all of you, please, if you can also join us to other activities. If you want to contact us, if you want to be part of the society, we have multiple areas of presence, including social media. But you can always email us, and we're very happy to see you here. And thank you so much again, Dr. Coimbra, to all the team that makes this Inside the Operating Room possible. You all have a good night, and thank you again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.